The world is getting crazier. People are acting more and more insane. The end of the world is tomorrow. Tomorrow. There's only one thing to do when the world is falling apart. Listen to Basil and Gonz as they discuss this week's news and events through the lens of Bible prophecy.
You are listening to Canary Cry News Talk.
You're listening to Canary Cry News Talk. Today is October 2nd, 2019, episode 159, and this week, Generation Waifu and Putin CRISPR to work. My name's Basil.
And this is Gonz. Welcome to the podcast where we talk about other news with Canary Cry views. And
That's right.
Title of this episode was almost, thanks to you, Basil, Jamaican Me Take the Mark. And it'll all make sense.
Yes, it'll all make sense. But first, Gonz, I have a little update. This morning, I dropped my phone in the toilet.
Oh.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm still, that's never happened to me.
I know. It was weird. I've heard about it. I've read about it online, people talking about it.
Did you stick it in rice?
What a stupid thing for somebody to do. But it happened to me. No, luckily, I have like one of those wallet cases. Yeah. And so the phone itself did not get damaged, but all my cards and stuff were covered in toilet water. So I have everything drying out now.
Lovely.
Yeah, but that's not what we're talking about today, Gonz. Are you ready for today's Flippy update?
Yes. Are we actually going with the Flippy update, or it's a
play
sub-Flippy?
the jingle. We got to play the jingle.
I thought you said don't play the jingle.
Okay.
I don't have it ready.
Oh.
But
I wrote it down and I highlighted it.
Yeah, okay. Well, I have this one.
I'm for the robots.
Okay, that's good enough. So this is not a Flippy update, but this is a Megabots update. That's right. Last week we talked about Megabots putting up Eagle Prime, the world's most impressive battle-ready futuristic robot. It is up on eBay. I think last time we spoke on the show, Gonz, the price was up to $51,000.
Yeah.
And today, we're 7 days later, exactly 7 days later, the price is up to $170,700. Yeah, so, you know, it's still pretty reasonable for this war machine. They did add some item specifics, condition used, seller notes, a few dings and dents from engaging in close quarters nation-on-nation combat for technological supremacy with Japan's most famous giant robot. So, you know, not in mint condition, but still, I think worth it. Whoever's going to if somebody walks away tomorrow with this robot for even $200,000 is a great price. I mean, they spent like over $2 million making this thing.
Yeah, well, let's make it official.
Flippy update.
Do you want fries with that?
That's right. So I'm a little disappointed that I don't have the wherewithal or the
money.
funds, the money to purchase this thing. That really would have been a dream come true. But maybe I'm sure whoever buys it, there'll be articles written about him. If nothing else, you know, if we bought it for $200K, we could just write it off as marketing, because all the tech websites would be writing articles about how some crazy podcaster bought the robot, and we'd get like written up in a lot of magazines. Gonz.
We would, and we would actually, that is really good PR, and we would show up to events. And we can maybe host events where
I could fully monetize this thing. That would have been a dream come true. Yeah. So if anybody out there has an extra $200,000 laying around, send me an email in the next 31 hours, and we'll get this thing clinched.
Yeah, because having
Basil,
having Eagle Prime is much cooler than a strap-on flippy arm that will go across your chest.
Yeah, but that'll be cool too. Yeah. I'll take what I can get at this point.
Okay. Well, we have a beast system update.
Speaking of the beast system, beast system.
Excuse me, I played the wrong one. It should be this one here.
Speaking of the beast system.
I like both of them.
Much more appropriate for this story, though.
Yeah.
This is St. Lucien News Online.com.
St. Lucian, yep.
We go all over the world for our news. Jamaica. Pastor ready to take microchip under his skin despite Mark of the Beast claims.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's right up our alley here. Jamaican pastor said he would have no problem putting a microchip under his skin as one way to avoid using cash. Pastor Sean Major Campbell of the Rector of Christ Church in Vineyard Town, St. Andrew, said he does not think that the use of microchips in places like Sweden is a sign of the mark of the beast. Quote, the implanted microchip is an advanced convenience, which I would personally utilize. The Bible is understandably silent on this, as it was on cell phone technology, microwave ovens, and motor vehicles. Any attempt to link technological accomplishments with the apocalyptic image of the mark of the beast is really fear-mongering and scare tactics, end quote, Campbell told The Star. The use of microchip in some parts of the developed world is being viewed by at least one local clergyman as a fulfillment of biblical prophecy. Sweden has been a leader in the microchip trend, and already thousands have had chips implanted in their skin to carry out everyday activities and replace credit cards and cash. Mark of the Beast, unlike Campbell, Bishop Rohan Edwards, head of Lighthouse Assembly Church of God in Spanish town St. Catherine, said the implanting of chip under the skin appears to be the mark of the beast. Quote, this is something that has been predicted as would have happened. It is the sign of the mark of the beast. If you understand what is happening here, the Antichrist is being set up as we speak to govern the world. There is a one world government that is being formed, end quote, he said. Edwards said that this technology will make an impact on the world and will eventually come to Jamaica, but he implores people to reject getting this mark on them. Quote, don't take a chip in your hand, he warned. With a chip in your hand, you are fulfilling Revelation 13, verse 17. The scripture he referenced states, quote, and that no man might buy or sell save that he had the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name. Basil.
Yeah.
Is putting a microchip under your hand at least signs of the mark of the beast?
Well, we talk about this all the time, and it sounds like the conversation in Jamaica kind of mirrors the conversation around the world. I think it's interesting because the pastor who is fine getting microchipped mentions, the Bible doesn't say anything about this microchip. It doesn't talk about cell phones or microwaves or motor vehicles. I mean, but it does kind of specifically talk about taking the thing on your hand or your head and not being able to buy and sell. So, yes, the Bible does not mention the words microchip, but the description is quite similar to what they're trying to do with the microchip.
Well, the other thing that blows my mind is, like, even just from a secular point of view, there's a massive difference between a cell phone, a microwave oven, and a motor vehicle, and a small little microchip that you inject under your skin. It's in you now. It's not just something you hold or something you use.
Making light of the technology and how invasive that it actually is.
Yeah, it's in your body, dude. This is not. Yeah. It's not like I can just kind of throw my cell phone away. No, I mean, the cell phone's already messing us up.
If the Bible said something like, and do not put your cold macaroni in the heat box, for thus the beast shall rise, then we might take a second thought about a microwave oven.
Yeah, that's true. But it doesn't say that, luckily.
Yeah, but there you go. This is a conversation we've been having for years, but it's fun to see that real-life pastors in Jamaica are having a vibrant conversation about these topics. We get a lot of complaints that mainstream churches are not talking about these things, but sounds like if you go to Jamaica, you'll hear all about it.
I mean, it's kind of inevitable to talk about if people are starting to walk around with microchips in their hands. I mean, even if it's not the mark, you can't deny that there's kind of this weird literal thing happening where some of these alleged allegorical and metaphorical and mythological passages are becoming literal. It's a weird time we're living in.
Yeah, it is very interesting. So I don't know if there's much else to say about that, except for that the microchip sort of phenomenon is becoming big enough that the mainstream churches are starting to have to respond to it, at least in Jamaica. And, I don't really know anything about these guys' churches. They might be of the apocalyptic bent. But
they might be the fringe like us in Jamaica.
making it onto the mainstream St. Lucia news.
Yeah.
Have you been to St. Lucia? I've been to
No.
St. Lucia.
No, you've been to a lot more places than I have.
Yeah, it's a nice place.
Yeah.
Okay. Are you ready for the next one?
I'm not sure, but yes.
Okay, Gons. This one's from futurism.com and it's titled Cursed Site Uses AI to Generate Waifus.
Painful generation!
Okay, yeah. I saw another jingle.
I did.
on the-
I decided not to
You
go with the
decided
whole
not
thing.
to. Okay.
Yeah.
So here we go. Futurism.com. Cursed site uses AI to generate waifus. Before you read another word, Futurism would like to apologize for what you are about to read. With that out of the way, let's talk about a site called Waifu Labs, which uses artificial intelligence to generate the anime-style paramours of your dreams. The website presents users with a grid of 16 anime women, some suggestive, some with animal ears, and many unsettlingly childlike, that were generated by AI. As the user picks their favorites, the AI hones in their anime babe preferences, ultimately offering them the chance to buy a picture printed onto a person-sized pillow for $90. Let's get you some context before you find yourself innocently Googling your way into a dark corner of the internet. The concept of a waifu is based on the Japanese borrowing word of wife, and used by a particular type of anime superfans who declare fictional characters to be their significant others. Waifu Labs calls its creation the waifu vending machine. The idea is to replace waifu drawing artists with AI to better cater to each person's individual interests. Thankfully, Synced Review reports that the engineers took extra steps to keep the AI from making X-rated images. To add an incestuous twist, at the end of Waifu Lab's session, the user is presented with a certificate of adoption for their unholy creation.
So you're adopting your wife?
You could. Feasibly, they could pair it with that site that turns selfies into anime portraits to create their own little family with their new bride, child bride. We give up. And so there you go. We got the cursed site, waifulabs.com. And Gons, I have a surprise for you.
Oh no.
I went through the Waifu Labs vending machine.
Oh boy, this is like the worst thing anyone could ever.
Before the show,
consider.
I had to test the technology.
Well, I was reading the article, and you were like, "Oh, look at I'm putting my waifu together," and I was like, "Did you read the article? Did you read the warning?" I was getting all uppity towards you because I'm like, "What are you doing?"
I'm doing it for the listeners. I'm boots on the ground, man.
You're really just turning into the
here.
guinea pig for us, all French people. Just stick basil into the acid and test the.
So I've gone through the AI process. I have not printed out, but I have generated my artificially intelligence cartoon wife.
Okay.
And Gons, here I'm going to pop it. This picture, I saved the picture. I'm going to pop it into the document for you.
Okay.
To look at,
Yep.
and let me know what you think of my my new bride.
Sure. Waiting.
Oh, it's in there.
Okay. All right. As expected, Waifu Labs. Let's see. What color is this? Greenish.
It's like
Greenish,
a teal.
Teal
she's
colored hair.
Uh-huh.
Just your very standard anime face. Red eyes.
She's very enthusiastic.
Very enthusiastic. Red eyes.
Uh-huh.
Was that a preference that you?
You know, the AI thought I was into it.
And cat ears, which
giant cat
ears. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll go ahead and pop this image into the notes or the art. Here's what we'll do. We'll pop it into the artwork for
it'll be
the extended report.
Oh, okay. Well, I was going to say that normally the episode art contains the this kind of thing, but we can.
Yeah, okay, you can throw it in there.
Yeah, the episode art. You will see. You clicked on this because you already saw what she looked like.
You know what,
Do you have a name for her?
You just go ahead. Oh no, I don't. Nope. I just call her waifu. It's my
the waifu.
Kitty waifu.
Oh man. I mean, it's really not that. I don't know. It's just a random anime female character. There's nothing.
Gons is
AI about
procedurally generated by artificial intelligence. I went through the process. But the reason, we wanted to bring this up is we've kind of followed these trends, these non-human spousal trends that have been developing over the past few years, whether it's robots or holograms or pillows people are sort of ceremonially getting married to, mostly in Japan. I think unsurprisingly. But there's a large contingent of anime super fans in the US. And I don't know, have you known anybody who's kind of gotten into the waifu thing?
No.
Besides me?
Even. Besides you, no, not really. I think the best part about this is as you were creating the waifu, the article talks about how they made sure there's no nudity and that sort of thing, but you were having a tough time keeping it modest.
I was having a tough time I had to go through a couple different iterations of the artificially intelligent waifu creator, because apparently the artificial intelligence predicted that I liked women who maybe weren't as modest as my mother would appreciate.
That's pretty funny.
And some of them, for some reason, looks like they were standing in a rainstorm. They're just sort of sopping wet for some reason.
So
it's
weird.
Very strange.
Okay.
No. We got to get to the actual story of this, though, which is, tracking the evolution of non-human spousal obsessions going on around the world. And so I might want to look up the. I don't know if I can do it here live, but look up the stats on this waifulabs.com, see what kind of visitorship they're getting.
Well, the other thing, too, is this is, of course, psychologically, it's conditioning. And all the video game stuff where you can customize people, it's very much in tune with the whole idea of designer babies. Just psychologically conditioning everyone for that.
Whatever sort of companion you want, whether it be a waifu or a child.
Or a child waifu? Because that article went all incestuous, of course.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Are you done with this part of the show here?
Yes. My waifu is beautiful and I love her. Move on.
You can't take the
CRISPR.
You can't take the
Cas9.
And this kind of connects, I guess. MIT Tech Review. Putin could decide for the world on CRISPR babies. This is we're talking about here. The future of genetically modified babies may lie in the hands of Russian President Vladimir Putin, Bloomberg reported over the weekend. A secret summit, according to Bloomberg, top Russian geneticists held a, quote, secret meeting this summer with government health officials in Moscow to debate a bid by a scientist there, Denis Rebrakov, to create babies genetically modified with the gene editing technology CRISPR. The first such children were born in China last year, blah, blah, blah. We know about the China thing. Putin's choice. The question now is whether Russia will grab the CRISPR.
Okay, hold on.
Okay.
Remember, Gons, every show is somebody's first show.
All right. Okay, so the first children born in China last year as part of a project to make HIV-resistant humans. That undertaking was halted amid pointed criticism of its ethical failings and a criminal investigation. So, yeah, the guy,
Professor
guy in China,
he
actually went through with some CRISPR genetic alterations using CRISPR, and children were born as a result. The question now is whether Russia will grab the CRISPR baton where China dropped it. Dmitry Peskov, the spokesman for Russia's leader, declined to give Bloomberg a position, saying gene editing is not, quote, a presidential issue. However, Bloomberg reports that the Moscow gene editing conclave was attended by pediatric endocrinologist Maria Vorontsova, who is Putin's eldest daughter, although this is never publicly confirmed by the Kremlin.
That's interesting.
Yeah, secondhand reports have Vorontsova saying she doesn't think scientific progress can be slowed, but that it should be controlled. For instance, by limiting production of CRISPR babies to state institutions. Health Minister Veronika Skortova, I think it's a different name. Is that a different name?
Yes.
Yeah.
It is a
told
different
Bloomberg
name.
that, quote, an ethics committee will deal with this very complicated issue. Forcing the issue exactly who should control the genetically modified future is in debate. Should it be scientists, IVF centers, or less than democratic governments like those of Russia and China? The Russian scientist Rebekov, described as, quote, a brash former wrestler, says he's trying to get some answers. Starting in June, Rebekov started saying publicly he wants to gene edit children so they are HIV resistant and work with deaf couples to correct inherited DNA errors so that their children can hear. And we reported on that a few weeks ago. Now, Bloomberg reports an institute where Rebekov works, Kulikov National Research Center for Obstetrics, Gynecology, and Perinatology, perinatology, I don't know how to say that, has plans to submit an application in October to health authorities that could instigate a review of CRISPR's safety for this purpose, create a test of whether it's socially acceptable in Russia, and finally determine if Putin will permit it. Quote, everyone is just yammering, Rebekov told Bloomberg, which said it interviewed him at his lab. Quote, I want the rules to be set, but nobody is doing this. He's very upset, Basil. He just really wants to get on with it.
Yeah.
Many scientists say editing embryos and turning them into people is too risky to proceed with. However, Rebekov says it's not expensive to do and that costs can only fall. Quote, it currently costs about 1 million rubles, $15,000 or so, to genetically change an embryo. More than a lot of cars, but prices will fall with greater use, Rebekov told Bloomberg. I can see the billboard now. You choose a Hyundai Solaris or a Superchild.
Not a very good billboard.
This guy's got ideas, though. Putin has already made some comments about gene editing, likening the technology to a nuclear bomb and citing the possibility of creating soldiers who feel no pain. According to Bloomberg, Putin last year directed $2 billion to be spent on genetic research that he said will, quote, determine the future of the whole world.
I think that this is the most reasonable way for this to go forward, and not in a reasonable way that I agree with.
But Russian agent.
If anybody was going to do it, it was going to be Russia. I mean, I'm sure China has ongoing projects right now that we just don't know about. After the sort of firestorm of Dr. Hay, that I'm sure they're going to keep these projects secret. And they sort of talked about punishing this man, but I have a feeling he's got a penthouse and a secret laboratory that he's doing his own work in. But Putin, of course, is not going to be left in the dust when it comes to super soldiers. And, I don't know, at least from the perspective of an American on American soil, the propaganda that dictates what we think about Russians and Russia, I don't think that Putin will have too much to say to maybe, I don't know, discourage scientists from creating the perfect human beings on Russian soil.
Well, we have to remember, too, that one of the biggest billionaire moguls, Dmitry Itskov, has his, Immortality 2045 project, and he's a Russian. So they already have a date set for their digital immortality. Of course, they're going to allow CRISPR babies,
Putin mentioning this is not a presidential issue, basically saying, I'm not going to stop you from doing it. If somebody else wants to stop you, that's up to them. Yeah. I think that's a pretty clear message. And especially when Russia really has more to gain than to lose in this case,
especially the leaders have the super soldier army.
The sort of morals coming down from I don't know. See, the Russian government has in the past passed down morals down from the Kremlin, down from the leadership of the country. So I find it interesting that they're taking such a passive role in this, which is why I think that his passivity is, sort of a backhanded approval to let this go through.
It's interesting because nobody else, not nobody else, but in the United States, politicians don't talk about it either. They don't really address this issue as anything
Not a whole lot, huh? Yeah.
So maybe there's the technocrats are whispering into their ears like, "Hey, we got this. Don't worry about it. You guys just keep doing what you're doing for the public, but they got the back end there with all of their Nephilim babies all ready to go in test tubes."
Well, and you think of the milieu of the ruling elite. I mean, they've always been open to things like eugenics, or even for their own personal children. They have these dreams of they can only make it so far in this world, but their children can accomplish much more than they.
Yeah.
And the legacy of a child for anybody, but indeed also in the case of the ruling elite, they're the next generation of world leaders.
Yeah.
And so it would make sense that they would be kind of open to some genetic modification. I mean, in this article, it talks about an official connection between Putin and his daughter.
Yeah.
Has not been made publicly.
Yeah, that I thought that was interesting too. That they would mention that, but then say, actually, it's not an official thing mentioned by the Kremlin. But
it would be like Ivanka. Like they don't
acknowledge
if nobody
that she's
mentioned. If nobody acknowledged that Ivanka was Trump's daughter.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess I could see how that might be their attempt to avoid.
Any kind of connection or
accusations of nepotism, because obviously Trump has suffered those accusations since the beginning.
Yeah.
And I mean, he has pretty much put his whole family in positions of power, which is
true. But
questionable.
There's nothing new about that, though. I mean, I get that there's this
no. It's not
notion.
Unique to Trump.
No, not at all. Not at all. Not even in the United States. So it's,
and since we got an extra minute or so, you take it and you apply it to Biden and Hunter Biden over in the Ukraine, which is blowing up into a huge disaster for Trump now about now we can impeach him because, and we've talked about this and we've known about this for a while. Hunter Biden has sort of been a proxy for Joe Biden and is sitting on boards on Ukrainian corporations, earning $50,000 a month, which is just kind of a way to legally extract money for bribery.
It's a true definition of a puppet head. Like really no skills or anything, just breaking in the cash.
And when he was starting to when a corruption investigator was getting too close to Hunter Biden, he was relieved of his duties. The reporter was. And that's what Trump was talking about on that phone call with the president of Ukraine. President of Ukraine, by the way, this has gotten a lot of attention, but I love it so much, was a former television comedian.
That's right.
It's awesome.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
So,
I will say this, just to wrap it up here and sort of a bow on top for the CRISPR conversation angle of it. There's developments happening in the United States as well in terms of companies that are going to come out with services and whatnot, because there is a new startup, a CRISPR gene editing startup called Beam Therapeutics. And I think the SEC just gave their approval or something like that. They raised $100 million in their IPO.
Beam Therapeutics?
Beam, B-E-A-M.
Beam.
And they will be in the stock ticker as Beam, which I thought was interesting because there's also a cryptocurrency called Beam that runs on the Mimblewimble protocol named after Harry Potter's thing. It's supposed to be kind of a privacy type of situation. But anyway, very interesting developments there. Beam, CRISPR, actual company, IPO, maybe places to invest in for, because if these companies are going to get big, if the pharmaceuticals are all going to start jumping off the psychotropics and, getting on the CRISPR wagon, it'll be an interesting transition of medicine in general.
Just a matter of time.
It is.
Okay, Gons. Well, I think that's all we have for today. Now, here's the thing, everybody. If you thought this just isn't enough Canary Cry News Talk, I need more. You can go on over to our patreon.com/CCNT and sign up for the extended report. We do another episode of Canary Cry News Talk every single week. And when you sign up, you get access to almost 100 other episodes of Canary Cry News Talk Extended Report. We are on number 98. That's crazy.
Yeah.
So if you want to get a whole host and access to a whole host of other content, you can head to patreon.com/CCNT. This week, we're going to be talking, we're going to have a little AR, VR update with Verizon. We're going to be talking about Elon's most recent warnings against artificial intelligence. And we're going to be talking about creating food protein from thin air. Yes, a very interesting new development that stemmed from NASA. Food from the air gone. So if you guys want to hear about that stuff and all sorts of other things, you can head over to patreon.com/CCNT, sign up, all sorts of cool rewards over there, and get access to almost 100 extended report episodes. And if you got friends who are still paying attention to the mainstream, they don't know what's going on, you got to grab them by the cage and shake it.
Are you ready to become cyborg?
I want to shake things up, stir up some controversy, rattle a few cages. Hey, stop that! You'll never silence me. I'm the last angry man, a crusader for the little guy. Leave the bird alone. Never. Rattle a few cages. Rattle a few cages.
It's gotta be biblical.
That's right, everybody. Make sure to head to patreon.com/CCNT for even more, and make sure to tune in next week. But until then, think outside the cage.